Hello, this is Abby.
Dear Abby, this is gonna be a long one.
Oh boy.
Dear Abby, how do you tell the difference between a new exciting crush and a rebound?
Does it matter?
Dear Abby.
Dear Abby,
Dear Abby.
Welcome to our little corner of the internet. This is the Dear Abby podcast. I hope you stay and hang out with us. See you in a sec. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Abby. I am your host. My name is Abby. Welcome back to this little podcast, this tiny, insignificant, tiny little podcast. Today we are talking about a couple of things. I don't really have any life updates. I am happy to be here, to be recording. Today I wanted to talk about two things. The first thing, I wanted to talk about the obsession that comes with OCD about being a good person or a bad person and seeing things very black and white, like either I'm all good or I'm all bad. And this is something that's messed me up. It's become, it used to be like the only thing that I would think about, literally the only thing I would think about is if I was a good person or a bad person. What would God classify me as? What am I? How do I know for sure what I am? How come I don't feel like a good person even though I'm trying to be one? Like, how do you know for sure that, like, it just started to spiral into like nothing ever felt good enough and or good or bad. It just like, anyways, it's just a very common theme within OCD to become obsessed with kind of getting that answer of, what am I? Am I good or am I bad? It sparked after seeing a clip from Harry Potter. I think it's in The Half-Blood Prince, but Harry brings it up and he kind of asks that question, like, what if I'm becoming a bad person? And so I'm going to share that quote because I thought it was actually really common for people who struggle with OCD to be obsessed whether or not they're a good person or a bad person, or the feeling that feels so real of like, I'm becoming a bad person. Like, I have thoughts that I don't necessarily align with, but they keep coming. And it's like, I don't feel like I hate them as much as I should. So that makes me kind of hate myself more. And it can be a really just not a fun cycle to be in. And it's exhausting and it never feels like there's an end to it, but we can get help for that part. And it's something that I'm a lot better at sitting with now, is the absolute discomfort that comes with not knowing which one I am or how much of one I am versus another. I wanted to share that and then talk a little bit about kind of what has been helpful for me with dropping the obsession, or at least just minimizing the amount of time I spend or waste obsessing about that, or thinking or ruminating or figuring out, or kind of doing extra things to make sure I'm a good person. And then and then the second thing is, I had a Dear Abby question. Well, it was actually an Instagram DM asking about relationship OCD. And she was saying her relationship OCD has gotten really bad and what things actually helped. And I know I've talked about this before a lot of times, but there's like so much to talk about within that one obsession because it can feel so all encompassing. And there's so many things that I did to help. And also there's so many things that I still do and learn that make me even more and more in love and make me feel that love because I'm, doing different things and thinking about things differently. So I wanted to share some of those main tips that I had that have really helped me like feel like connected to my husband, even if I still have obsessions that kind of pop up, but I don't sit there and like fester on them. They don't fester. Okay, so first things first is the quote. Back to the Harry Potter quote. For context, I know everyone has seen Harry Potter, but the part I'm talking about specifically is, in the clip I'm talking about, is before this. Obviously, Harry's had some encounters where he feels somewhat connected to Lord Voldemort. Okay, so the big bad guy. He feels like his brain thinks similarly in some ways. He feels the anger that Voldemort feels. He gets really frustrated. He's been getting more angry with people, more short-tempered, snappy. Like, he's obviously under a lot of pressure being Harry Potter, but he feels a little bit like how Voldemort maybe feels sometimes, like just hatred, and he's getting these little surges of these not so pleasant feelings, and he does not feel good about that. And he's scared about how he feels. He's scared about these feelings of anger and annoyance with his friends and his loved ones, and he's lashing out, or he gets really upset because he's probably scared and he has a bunch of things going on. So there is some type of a connection between him and Voldemort. But this is obviously bugging him more and more because he's feeling it more and more as the pressure intensifies. So he is talking to his godfather, Sirius Black, and they're in Sirius's, I think, childhood home, I believe. So Harry's obviously very troubled by this, and it prompts a question to Sirius, who he trusts, and who is very wise and handsome, who I thought was so handsome, might I add. What if after everything I've been through, something's gone wrong? What if I'm becoming a bad person? Sirius earnestly replies, gently, and can see that Harry is very scared in this moment. I want you to listen to me very carefully, as he puts his hands like on his shoulders. You're not a bad person. You are a very good person who bad things have happened to. You understand? Besides, the world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. We've all got both light and dark inside of us, and what matters is the part we choose to act on and hear, as he gently reaches towards Harry's heart. So I remember seeing that in the movie alone, like the last time I watched it, and I was like, oh, I love that. But I didn't think about it in the context of having OCD. Yes, you could argue that saying that you're a good person is like reassurance, and that's like the number one reassurance you could probably give to somebody who's struggling with what if I'm a bad person. But what I like the most is when he's saying the world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. Like, you're not all good and you're not all bad. And I think that mindset of it is split into good and bad is what is hurtful to ourselves and what fuels the OCD, the obsession with if I'm a bad person or not. And I think if you go deeper, there is a fear of obviously like maybe what happens next. Like, what if I am a bad person? What does that mean? Or maybe I don't feel like I belong, or I don't feel like I have a home, or I don't feel safe, or I don't feel like worth anything. I don't have confidence. Like, there's a lot of things that could be underneath that fear and that obsession with what if I'm a bad person, or what if I'm not a good person. But something that has brought me a lot of peace is not trying to jump into that rabbit hole to figure out everything that's good, everything that's bad. Everything's black and white. Everything has to be put onto a list of good and bad. Even things that I do, like actions that I did, choices that I made. I always want to categorize them so black and white. That was right, that was wrong. And that's so exhausting to do, because sometimes it literally feels like a list in my head is running of like, that was good, that was bad, that was good, that was bad. And it's just almost all day sometimes. And then that makes me more self-conscious. That makes me have more regret, more anger towards myself, because I never felt like I did anything good. All my choices were wrong, which in turn makes me a little bit more frustrated with other people and a little bit less lenient and understanding. So something that helps obviously with that is refusing to go down that rabbit hole, and then telling yourself or sitting with the thought of like, for example, if you have a thought throughout the day and it's like, and it's just like a what if thought, or maybe it's a command, or it's like a not a what if, it's just like you are a bad person, and you just get a feeling like you are a bad person, or a thought that's you are a bad person, you're not good. You think you're good, but you're not. You think you're doing the right things, but you're not. And it creates so much doubt and fear and distress and this loop of worry, and I can't get an answer and nothing feels right. If you have those things come up, instead of suppressing and instead of maybe trying to change that thought into no, I am a good person, or maybe instead of trying to think about all the good things that you've done and all the good times that good choices that you've made, because that's a compulsive behavior, trying to get away from the fear and that feeling because you don't think you can handle it. But what if you just decided, okay, I think I want to see if I can handle this feeling and these thoughts, and sit with the fact that I don't know for sure if I am a good person or a bad person, or my choices were good or my choices were bad. And then don't go to anything else. Just sit with that, feel uncomfortable, let that feeling like fully, let that anxiety spike, realize that you can handle it. And if you need to be with somebody or a therapist or a loved one and just tell them, hey, I'm doing an exposure, and I know this might sound really silly and you don't have to understand, and then also us as the people who are experiencing it, we have to be okay with them not understanding. That's a whole other thing that is important, is just like realizing some people just won't ever understand our OCD, and it might be crazy to them, and that's fine. We could ask somebody to be with us, to just be present with us or sit with us, just so we're not alone. Because sometimes when we have ignored these feelings, or when we suppress, or when we turn it too positive, and we've done that for so long, they can build up to these huge feelings, and it feels like sometimes I very heavily disassociate because of it. It's an extremely uncomfortable feeling. Anxiety is not a good feeling. Like, it's not comfortable. It's extremely uncomfortable. So, but we can handle it. Like, and it doesn't stay forever. It might stay for a while, and it might get better and then worse and then better and then worse. But you can handle it. And we have to be okay with the fact that we won't be able to give our OCD that answer that it wants. And then once anxiety starts to decrease, for me, I think it is helpful to let myself, not necessarily reassure myself, but I think when the anxiety's subsided, I definitely pat myself on the back, and that's when I kind of walk and talk myself through like my values of like, okay, well, I may not know for sure if I'm a good, bad person, or what God thinks, or what my mom thinks, or my dad thinks, or my friends think. Like, I don't know what everyone thinks I am or what I am. I do believe in A, B, or C. And that has really helped me in my past. Like, OCD sometimes makes you doubt your past or doubt your experiences that you've had. And it's exhausting. That is like one of the most exhausting symptoms, I think, of OCD that I've had, is just the doubting of your history, of your life, of the positive things, of things that you have felt sure of before. Because OCD will come in and it'll find one tiny thing that might connect through this tiny little, there's like 20 connections, and then it's like, oh, it's like it could be 20 layers away and not connected, but OCD will somehow connect it and make that the biggest. I don't know, like it'll try to just find anything and everything to make you doubt the experiences that you've had that you can trust. Something that feels great after you've suffered with OCD for a while is taking back your history, I guess, and being able to trust your past and trust things that you once felt were right or good or safe or home. And it can't keep taking it away from you. And even if it does for a second, you'll get it back. Anyways, it's a really hard symptom, I think, of OCD. So I think that's like the exposure way. I mean, that's like the best thing you can do for your OCD, is doing those exposures and responding differently, because that's the whole point. It's not just exposing and then you just like do loopholes in your head, or you replace the thoughts, or you suppress the thoughts. It's like you have to fully do the exposure and respond differently to get any progress. You have to be all in. You have to like fully be ready to let go of some of the patterns that you've had in your whole life. Just stop seeking reassurance for that. That's another thing that helped, is I had to stop going to people, in like religious people I would seek validation from, like reassurance that I'm good, like they think I'm good, they feel like I'm good. Find the triggers and then learn how to respond differently. Yeah, so just find the patterns, like when these thoughts pop up, what things trigger them, and then and then a lot of the times you can find out what you're really scared of, or what your big fear is underneath, just by knowing what actually triggers these thoughts and these fears that come up. In those moments of anxiety, you will not feel like you are a quote unquote good person. You will not feel like a comforting, I'm doing my best, I'm trying to be a good person. In those spirally moments, in those OCD moments, you're not going to feel that. It won't come until after, when you have more clarity, when your mind isn't as like bogged down by all the distress and the anxiety and the thoughts. So it was just helpful for me to remember that, like, when I get triggered, I'm not going to feel good. Period, point blank, never will. Like, I just, That's what being triggered is. That's what an exposure is. It's like you get something that sends off your nervous system and you go from 0 to 100. It will not feel good. Even if you're doing the exposure right, quote unquote, or you're doing what you like, the tools that you've been told or taught and given, you probably still won't feel good for a while during the exposure and after. Sometimes it takes like a week for anything to feel like better, but the work does pay off. Gotta lock in. Okay, and then the second thing that I was going to talk about again was relationship OCD. I think one thing that really helped with my OCD is obviously doing exposures, like really find what again triggers those thoughts, those fears, those feelings. If you get icked out, what icks you out? Is it when he's wearing certain sandals? Is it when he has hair on his toes? Is it like when you notice he has stuff on, like he has like bumps on his skin somewhere? Or like, is it when he's wearing glasses? Is it when he doesn't have glasses? Is it like, what is it? And then make him do it. Tell him, hey, don't trim your toe hairs. You know, I like your toe hairs. And you kind of turn it into a game a little bit. I was so, like, I think my relationship OCD actually physically made me ill because it was so bad. I don't know. I had no rest from the thoughts. But with my relationship OCD, it was like when someone would say, like, you just kind of got to make a joke out of it, or you got to be light about it sometimes because it makes it less of like so daunting and serious, and it makes it more of, okay, I can handle it. That's why I say that. And trust me, I'm not minimizing how hard it can be to do that, because it took me like probably a full 2 years of exposure work to be like, okay, I can see how maybe you can make it light or make it kind of a game, or you can talk back to your OCD in that way of being like, ooh, yeah, I think that I love the way he nods his head at a concert, you know, like things that would give someone the ick, like jokingly, but also sometimes random things give people with OCD the ick. With somebody that you feel once probably felt very connected to. And OCD does start to strip your connection away because you're so anxious. So you can't feel good. Like, you don't feel good when you're anxious. Maybe try to, like, you just got to lean into the weird things that your spouse does, or your boyfriend or your girlfriend. If it's a real, like, ick where it's like, how do I describe it? It's a total, like, you're off put. It's off putting. It's very unbecoming. It's very actually concerning. And you're like, I'm actually really not attracted at all, and never was, never will be. No chemistry ever, never was, never will be. That's different. And I know sometimes it's like, well, what if that's how I'm feeling now? And what if I never felt attraction? I was like ovulating, or what if and that's why I thought we had a connection, but we really don't. When you have a connection with somebody, I feel like you will feel that connection eventually. You have before. That's one of the things that OCD might do, is try to be like, well, maybe you were just ovulating if you're a girl, which means you're more, in the mood. There's like a bunch of different things that your mind will use to try to trick you. But even if it does try to trick you, the answer is not by being like, no, I actually really am attracted. Again, the response prevention is like, oh, maybe I was just like in the mood and I never really found him attractive. I don't know. We'll see. Like, let me just play this out. Let me just see how it goes. And then your OCD might say, hey, you're sicko. You're a bad girlfriend. You're a bad wife. You're a bad husband for playing along if you're not 100% sure that you're obsessed with how they look or that you have chemistry. And then you might want to fight back and be like, no, like but I do love them. I know I did. Like, I have felt it. No, don't give the OCD that answer. You don't have to answer to it. You don't have to answer to your OCD. Instead, again, sit with the discomfort of that, egg it on, be like, is that all you got? You got any more mean things to say to me? You got any more truths you want to throw at me? If you want to get really sarcastic with it, be like, is that all you got? You got anything more? Keep it coming. Keep throwing all the mean things at me. Let's get these out of the system. Get them out of your system. Come on, get them out. Get them out. I think recognizing that it will be a little bit of a battle and that it'll teach you a lot about yourself. And I think what recovery did for me was show me how much more choice and how much more power I have over the feelings that are curated in the relationship, how close I am to my spouse, how close we can get emotionally, physically, spiritually, like that's within my realm of control in terms of, at least on my end, what the input will be, what the output will be. And then I think the last thing that was really helpful for me with recovering from relationship OCD was not just the fact that it was like my choice whether I wanted to stay or leave. And there was no right answer. No one was going to tell me he's the right guy, he's not the right guy. I believe in like little, what do they call, glimmers or sprinkles of fate. I really do. But no one's forced into it. I think it's just like, it's a weird philosophical, like everything's happening at the same time, but also everyone has a choice. And so it's like, I don't understand it. It's just reality. It's weird. But we have a choice in it. And maybe all you really need is your own validation and your own internal validation of like, I'm going to trust myself with this decision and go forward. And if it doesn't work out and it ends in divorce or it ends in a huge breakup or it ends in something bad, like something difficult, then that would suck. That would suck if it ended that way. There's no way for you to know. There's no way for me to know. It's always it's always a risk. But there are little pieces in there that might give you that reassurance. But the more desperate we are for that and the more we need this 100% feeling of reassurance in a relationship, the worse you're going to feel and the least, and you're not going to feel that. And I could say that very positively from my own experience of years and years of relationship OCD with the same person who was like, one second I'm like, I think I have to break up. The next second it was like, wait, I'm so obsessed with them. The next second it'd be like, oh, I have to break up, obsessed, break up, obsessed. But the obsessed would not last very long. Not like obsessed, like, but like I love him. Like I love him and I'm in love with him. I digress. But what I was going to say, the last thing I will say on this is, just because you're recovering from OCD, it doesn't mean that all of everything else in your life like doesn't exist and that you don't have to also put an effort into your relationship outside of your OCD. And for a while I might be like, that's all I can think about in my relationship is my obsessive compulsive disorder, like my obsessions. So it might feel like there's no way you can disconnect like your obsessions with your relationship and making sure that's doing okay, because they do feel very intertwined and they can get, but at the same time you're also capable of, even if it doesn't feel as natural or good, you're still capable of connecting with your partner. Like you still have choices to make, you still have opportunities to grow closer with them. So that's something that you have to take very seriously and you have to take initiative on. I really, like, I see a bunch of things talking about date your spouse forever, and at first I'd hear that and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cute. Now that I'm married and we've been with each other for a couple of years now and I have gone through a divorce, I now understand why that is so important. And one thing that was like a maintenance thing on my relationship, which doesn't sound romantic, but it's that's just a bad word for it. I wanted to stay connected to my husband. So in order for me to do that, I had to learn to really give him the benefit of the doubt, which with OCD, some people call it the doubting disorder, can be very difficult to do. And it feels wrong to do it. Like it feels like we're betraying something. It feels like we're being naive or irresponsible by like just trusting somebody. A lot of times if you suffer with relationship OCD, if your husband or your wife or your partner ever hurts your feelings, it can be really hard to get over that. And it can be hard to give them the benefit of the doubt of that. But on the receiving end, you would want somebody to see your intention. You'd want somebody to understand that it's coming from a place of love, but it can be game changing to now give your partner the benefit of the doubt. They hurt your feelings, they get grumpy, they're annoyed, they're hangry or something, and they're snippy or like whatever it is. They just had a long day. Like the two choices are, of course, you don't have to take the time to understand them. No one's forcing you to do that. But there is something going on, obviously. No one just acts like grumpy or sad or something for no reason. Like unless they are literally a psycho and then they're just like being mean. then you'll learn that eventually, or just be aware of that, I guess. I don't know. That's probably a triggering thing to say, but you do have that choice in that moment to give them the benefit of the doubt, to forgive them almost immediately without them having to ask, even though it feels good. And if you need that in order to like forgive and move on, if someone hurt your feelings, then tell them that and be like, I need you to just understand, because that's what will make me feel like I can forgive you, or that's what I'll feel like I need in order to actually move on. Like my brain can compartmentalize that and I can move on from this instance. I can move on from this mishap, this hurt. So you can communicate that, like communicate what you actually really need, even if you're scared you're going to get judged for it and they might not understand or they might think it's stupid. It's like, well, that's not your job to convince them of that. It's just you have to share. And also, it is part of what helps people go closer is try to see that person. You're trying to understand that person. You're trying to be close to them. And in order to be close to somebody, you do need to try to understand what's like going on internally, what's in their mind, what's in their heart, what's weighing them down, what's lifting them up, what inspires them, like the whole realm of what a person is. That I feel like as a spouse, for me at least, that's what I feel like my job is to try to understand him as much as I can and then support him where I feel like he needs support and to have fun. Like with OCD, with relationship OCD, sometimes we forget that we just like to have fun with our partner. It's okay to laugh. Like it was so hard for me to let loose and laugh. It can be really hard to let loose and laugh when you have OCD. Like, and everything feels so serious. You're like, I cannot laugh. I am trying to save our marriage. I'm trying to save the world. I'm trying to save my sanity. I feel like I'm going to go insane. You know, like everything feels so dire and the end of the world. So you might feel disconnected from the part of you that just likes to have fun and laugh and goof around with your partner. So find ways to reconnect with that part of yourself and the part of them, or try to bring that out in them. If it's been a while, it's fine. You can recover. I'm a big believer in recovering your relationship. If you're both in it and you love each other and you're choosing that, you can recover even if it's been a long time. So if you're in the middle of a relationship and it's been really hard and you don't feel connected and you're like, I don't know if we ever will again, you have the option to restart and take it seriously and think about the things that will make you feel connected to them again. Sometimes subconsciously we might just push that closeness away, and laughing and playing and having fun. Sometimes we push that away because that means like we're close to somebody and we're vulnerable. Like to me, laughing can be vulnerable. Anywho, I hope that helps anybody out there who's suffering with relationship OCD. If you know somebody that is, maybe send them this episode. They might find it helpful. I don't know. Maybe they don't. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's episode of Dear Abby. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. That's going to be it for today. If you want to support the podcast, you can leave a rating and review on Apple and Spotify, as well as you can like, subscribe, comment on YouTube. You can also go above and beyond and post my podcast on your story, or you can just share it with a friend. Share it, clip it, whatever you want. I appreciate any of the free marketing. I appreciate any of the support. So thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and love you. Bye. 우회전 taking a ride to journey. 눈치 보면서 들어가야 할 때 찾아 나머진 바빠 개설레임 바꾸는 사람들 시간만 지나